Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Welcome to Game Over Montreal. I'm now going to unmute Kay before she starts talking and hope that the audio works. It's been a while since I hosted this show. As you know, my name is Andrew Berkshire. I am here with Kay Imam. This is Game Over Montreal, and the Montreal Canadiens just lost one. They lost their first in three
Yep.
straight wins coming into this one.
Yep.
I knew that they were going to lose this game because I was coming back. That's how I viewed it. Everything was going all great while I was off on like holidays, we'll call them. And now I'm back and the losing begins again. But I don't think this is a game people should be upset about. And I understand why, because it's a winnable game. But this is a process over results game, and we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about Slavkovsky. We're going to talk about Kirby Dach, talk about Montembeault, talk about Dobesh, because I didn't get to see his debut.
Yes.
Which was awesome. And I'm excited to hear from Kay and hear from our chat here because I haven't been able to do this in a long time now. And I've been doing it less and less frequently. So I'm excited for it. We've got a good show for you tonight. And probably we'll leave, I think, feeling a little bit better about the game than at least watching the third period, which I know very frustrating for me as well. But before we get too deep into it, I got to tell you all about Hyperdrive Hockey because you really got to check out this show. It's truly fantastic what Max, Dach, and Kevin have put together here. It's three Quebecers broadcasting in their second language. It gets better every single week. They're covering, across the hockey world, all the big stories, giving you insight, giving you, games also. They play games like trivia stuff. It's super fun, super digestible, and they're just excellent professionals at what they do. Between Kev putting it together on the production side, Max with the hosting, Dach chiming in and also being there. And she's a media professional who's been doing this for a very, very long time, adding her perspective. I don't think anybody who's checked it out so far has regretted it. So go over to the Game Over Network channel right now, hit the subscribe button, and listen to your first episode of Hyperdrive Hockey. Or, find it on Spotify or on Apple Music, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. Go to https://thegameovernetwork.com and find all of your Game Over shows there. We have all the information. You can support us. It's a great place, and it's only going to get better. All right, Kay. I just noticed that I don't even have the proper period on the overlays, and that's too bad. But what can you do? I'll fix it now. So what do you think of this game?
So first, I'd like to start by letting everybody know I did not get much sleep last night. I have trouble regulating my emotions at the best of time. So I told Andrew on Blue Sky, I was like, I think this is going to be one of those shows where I'm going to leave feeling better because you're going to talk me down. Um, like, honestly, I know that it wasn't that bad of a game. I know that the numbers aren't the numbers say that it wasn't as bad, and I know that there was, some bad luck and some bounces, and their goalie was hot, and all of those things, and yet I find myself so angry. But I think more than angry, I think by the end of that 3rd period, more than angry, I'm just kind of frustrated. I think I saw them the 3rd period especially, I saw them try, and it just wasn't working, so.
Yeah, this is one of those games where I saw a lot of folks frustrated and talking about effort or effort not being there. And I think one of the things with hockey, because it is such a random sport, it is literally the most random team sport. It's the one that
Mm.
skill is least associated with wins and losses. You can go look it up. There have been studies done on this. There's just a lot more, whether it's because it's on ice, on skates, the puck instead of a ball. All these things factor into it. It's also super fast. Things can go wrong even if you play well, right? So I think there's a difference between effort and execution. And
Yeah.
execution-wise, tonight for the Canadiens, I don't know if they were that good, but at the same time, they they put up the chances necessary to get some goals. And I think the third period really was brutal because they tried to push it too much, and it was just like turnover city. And that was actually the only period where the Hawks generated literally anything at 5-on-5.
Yeah.
This game was super frustrating to watch because the Canadiens owned it. And I know
Yeah.
that folks will probably see the loss and not want to, and then be like, oh, they were chasing the whole game. But from puck drop at 5-on-5,
Mhm.
the Blackhawks were not in this game. The Canadians
Yeah.
were significantly better. Like there was very few
I
even
think that's why
periods
the
of time.
the 2
Mm-hmm.
penalties were really rough to start because I think it just kinda killed the momentum. What was it? The 3rd period that started with a power play, I hate those. I hate it
Same.
when a period starts or if the power play is split, that's
Yep.
even worse, but even if it starts or at like, I don't like it at all. I feel like that's not good momentum going in. Um, so it was just I think the penalties were a little frustrating, especially because I think, like, they were real penalties too.
Yep.
I think that's a little frustrating. But I think overall it just things didn't click, right? It felt like there was opportunity and they didn't take it. Like it felt like if they'd just been a tiny bit more refined, if they'd been like I don't think it was the try hard. I think they were trying. I think it was just like that little last step felt missing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think also how many almosts did they have tonight? Like
So many.
Rene Bourque may as well have been every single player in the lineup. Like it it was so annoying. Like so many, like Suzuki almost put in a couple. There was the one right before the Blackhawks scored to make it 4-2, I think, where it just like
Mhm.
bounced off the goal line and a Blackhawk player just like whipped their stick back. And the thing is, you can go over the other way as well. And the Blackhawks had a goal called off where Montembeault tried to cover the puck and he didn't, and the ref blew the whistle. That intent to
They
blow
got lucky
thing,
that one.
very, very lucky. But overall, even despite that, I think they got super unlucky in this game. It's just, it's not really an unlucky in terms of like, not getting the right calls. Like, I think you could argue
Mhm.
that they deserved more power plays, but would they have done something with it
Yes.
is also a question because it seems like
Yeah,
as
with
soon as
Line being
Laine's
out.
gone,
Yeah. We had this actually, guys, just to kind of give you a peek behind the scenes, we try to talk just for like a minute or two about what we want to talk about. I can't believe I didn't even mention we'd probably want to touch a little bit on Line A. I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's just that really felt that. I think this is another one of those situations where I don't know if David Savard could have helped on the ice, but I think he might have helped a little bit. Just I saw like a lot of frustration on the part of, I don't know, I just saw some sloppiness, more sloppiness than I'm used to. Also, Claire, thank you. Yeah, it is new hair. I decided to go dark, so yeah,
yeah,
just
shout
wanted
out
to
to.
say thank you. Shout out to my hairstylist.
Sorry, I just realized, Kay, that I switched views and it like made your screen go dark, so I apologize for that. But it should be back in a second for those who
Mhm.
are waiting for the delay on from our stream to the actual show. But yeah, obviously, welcome Claire, and I should have pointed out Kay's new hair color as well. We got to point out that kind of stuff. Uh,
Thank you, thank you.
I noticed that Bernardo also said that Mark thinks blonde people can't grow beards well. Do you agree? I think Mark's beard looked okay in the last broadcast. The first one that I saw, I was like, okay, Mr. Hobo, which I think he also said, but I think lots of blonde people can grow beards. Chris Hemsworth is blonde, right? He's got a
I mean, we
pretty
looked
decent
at
beard.
Yoel Armia. Look at Yoel Armia's beard. It's good. And
Yeah.
he's blonde blonde. So I think there's some examples against it, but if it makes Mark feel better about his beard, I'll let him have it.
Well, it's not like he can't grow it. It's growing. It's just
Exactly.
it's a little overwhelming in the hobo phase. He's got to trim it up a little bit, and that's okay. That happens to all of us. Uh, yeah, I think this one it's one of those process over results games for me because
Mhm.
you're never gonna have every game go your way. That's just sports, and the Canadians just won 3 games that I think probably all of us expected them to lose,
Yeah,
especially the
yeah,
Florida one because they haven't beat Florida since Carey Price's last game, I believe, until Dobish
yeah,
came out and rocked a shutout, which is amazing. We'll talk about that
yeah.
later. But when you win 3 games against high level competitive teams, and then you have
Mm.
the Chicago Blackhawks right after, that's like a storybook letdown game. And
It just feels like it was written to be that way at that point.
exactly. And I'm way happier with a game that got away because like Soderblom was spectacular. Like that save that he made
Mhm.
on Suzuki in the second period, end of the second period there, sensational.
Oof. Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. The first two periods, if they played those first two periods 95 times or 100 times, they'd win 95. You know, and
Wow,
most of those would be blowouts.
you sound like the World Juniors, team, Andrew.
The cope, but the thing is, the World Juniors team,
They
like,
were wrong. They were
they were
wrong. You're
terrible.
right.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were you're right. But I think it was just, like you said, the randomness of hockey really just shows in these moments. Um, I just I think this is kind of meant to be almost in a weird way because Chicago was coming in on a losing streak. They desperately wanted to win. I don't think it's that the Habs didn't want to win. I don't think this was a matter of like want or whatever. But I do feel like there was like a few moments where I was like, I felt like I don't like this team usually after they've been off for a few too many days. And I think that's less effort and it's more just not even rust, but like a lack of connectedness, I guess,
Like a mental
chemistry.
focus thing,
Like yeah,
right?
slightly changes, like just a little bit. And so I think that didn't factor in very well. Um, I don't know, man. This is my team. This is Habsed. We got Habsed today.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember also that this is like there's been an exciting stretch here since Line came back,
Mhm,
and things have been going pretty well. But also during that stretch of time, even after the carrier trade, which is looking great, I think he really fits in on this team really well, and it's kind of stabilized the defense a little bit.
mhm.
This team is still not outperforming teams on a regular basis. Like they
No.
are a at this stage right now, I think all of us would be very happy if they were a 50-50 team. Like half the time they were playing better than their opponents and it
Mhm.
like shakes out around like 50% differentials across the board. Like they're moving up. The first 2 months of the season they were like 45% in everything or worse. Like they were
Yeah,
not playing well. We remember that. Just
we
because they are
do.
playing better now doesn't mean that we should expect them to win all the time. So we have to like remember and just when you're watching these games, remember that this is still a process and they're not suddenly going to, because Line A's back, snap into being a contender or a playoff team even. This is a long road and
Mhm.
it's tough to be patient. I get that,
Yeah.
especially when we've watched multiple years now of not great hockey and we want to see the just desserts from us suffering,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we're not quite there yet. So
We're
I
not
would
quite
say
there
like
yet.
take the good process. Don't worry too much about the result. And hey, at the end of the day, also you got Xhekaj beat up Pat Maroon. That's not bad.
That was embarrassing for Maroon, eh?
I saw people
That
saying
was
that he
a
was throwing elbows, but those were just short lefts.
no, those were just when you're fighting in close range, it just
Exactly.
happens.
He did. It's like the
Maroon's a
patented
fighter, he
move.
knows how it goes. Like,
Yeah.
he's don't get that one.
Yeah. He wasn't
That feels like
complaining
I don't like Arbor Jacka, and therefore I'm gonna find a reason to,
or
uh,
Arbor
just
because he really
man,
has been on his best behavior. I noticed they were like it's
yes.
his third fight of the year, and I was like, only three. I'm so proud of
I
you,
know.
kiddo.
I was not expecting that. You could definitely I think today was a little bit harder just because it is hard to, play next to a guy who hasn't played in, like, 20,000 years, right? And I'm not criticizing the decision not to play Struble because I don't think in this little stretch any of the defensemen, like, deserve to be out. Um, you could argue Savard, I guess, but, like, that wasn't gonna happen 'cause I think Marty's really trying to stick to the left-right thing,
Mhm.
except if you're Mike Matheson, you just kinda have to deal with that 'cause you're playing next to Lane Hudson, so too bad. You're the one who's gonna be, and I don't mind that. Um, but I think Struble looked like a guy who's missed a lot of time, uh, especially at the start of the game. Um, and it just seemed like I'm not sure if you read slash watched the podcast, but Arpin Basu talked a little bit about his conversation with Struble after Carrier was traded or like came here. And he was definitely like accepting the fact that like I'm now in this position where someone's gonna have to be out for me to go in. Um, because this is just kind of what I've been giving. Because they were trading Baron and him back and forth, right? Like they
Right.
were in terms of who was scratched and who wasn't. And he kind of made peace with that. But also he was talking about some of the feedback he'd gotten from Marty, and some of it was like just decision making. And I think maybe that mix of like letting that decision making get into his head, or like that criticism get into his head, um plus the rust, I just think it was like, I think it's a hard one to go into, and I don't think it helped that, like, the second line had Michael Pezzetta for a good amount of time, and then Emil Heineman kinda did better up there. Then at one point, I saw Jake Evans there. I don't even know what the majority combination was on that line.
Yeah, it's hard to really parse it out when you have a
Mhm.
game like this where like two regulars are out and they're kind of throwing things out there, see what works. But again, like I think you're right that Struble, it was Struble's issue, even though I'll dunk on Sergio Mamasso again because dude doesn't pay attention. Like I'm
Yeah,
sorry, he
yeah,
doesn't.
yeah.
Like when that Struble penalty happened, which happened because Struble was not making good decisions and overskated the puck and then had to interfere with a guy, and then Jack Eye was caught on the wrong side of the puck, so he had to trip as well. And he blamed Jack Eye for it. He was like, "Oh, Jack Eye did this first," and then Struble came in to save it. And I was like, do you
I
watch
don't
at
think
all?"
so. No.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah. At least
uh,
it wasn't Gary Galley today.
true. The faint niceness of not having to watch on one versus the other. I wish they would just bring Frankie Corrado or Mike Johnson on full time,
Man,
or
I love
Cheryl
him.
Pounder. You know, why
Yeah.
does Ottawa get Cheryl Pounder like almost all the
I
time
don't
and
know,
we
it's
don't?
not
Like,
fair.
what?
It's
What?
not fair.
We need a Montrealer in there who's like who lives
Mhm.
here, who's part of
Yeah,
it and is good. Because I think Cheryl lives in Ottawa, so that's why that happens.
that
But
would make
anyway,
sense, yeah.
uh, I think you're right that Struble deserves a bit of grace on that,
Mhm.
but that kind of also was the game, which
Yeah,
sucks.
yeah.
But unfortunate, but that's how it goes. All right, let's talk about Kirby Dach and Uri Slavkovsky in a second here. We're going to shift into our second period. But first, before we do, I got to tell you about one of our new sponsors because this is super exciting for me that we have these sponsors on Game Over now, that we're working with local companies. This is the dream. This is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to become an ad spot for these local companies that no longer have it. Because face it, radio is dying, print is dying, and the rates that they're charging for what they actually push is they're just not realistic, especially for local businesses, especially for small businesses owned by individuals or families. So this is the kind of stuff that we want to be promoting. And also, hey, it may not seem like a traditional hockey thing, but we're also making hockey content that isn't necessarily traditional. So we're going to have fans in here who like different stuff and want to talk about different stuff on top of hockey. Not everything about hockey is like the alpha male, rah-rah, Joe Rogan type crap. We're going to talk about different
Mhm.
stuff. And one of those things is Inchu Bijou, which is a goth, glam, witchy jewelry store here in Montreal. It's a secret jewel in St. Henry in the historic Chateau St. Ambroise. They make things that vary from like subtle silver pieces to gold to glamorous bespoke pieces. I swear, if you check out inchubijou.com, the like variety of things that you can get is incredible, and just the detail. They recently presented at Milan Fashion Week. They were presented at Paris Fashion Week last year. The things that Astrid and her team come up with are truly incredible, and they're also really great in the community. They've built this really great community in Montreal for people who love that aesthetic, first of all, but also in the queer community. They are very,
Mhm.
very big. They support people, they support other businesses, and they also have the Marché Maleficarum, which happens next in February. And that is like a bunch of different vendors from all over come together and they take over like a floor of the Chateau St. Ambroise in St. Henry and sell their wares, show people what they've built, you know, artisans from all different kinds of areas and all different kinds of products. It's really, really cool. And they do that basically bi-monthly, but 5-6 times a year. It's really cool.
Very cool.
Stop. It's
Very
very
cool.
cool. Stop by 4000 Rue St. Ambroise, Suite 278, and say hi to Astrid and the Wicked team, or head to inchubijou.com to enhance your style. All right, so we got to talk
Just
today.
really quickly,
Oh, go for it. Go
uh,
for it.
I'm really feeling that like Vichy aesthetic. I'm starting the new year, with the dark hair, everything. So I'm really excited for whenever I can make it to Montreal and check them out because I've looked online. It's some woof. I can't. I'm really excited. It's some great stuff, and I'm really happy that we're able to be partnered with them. So just wanted to say my 2 cents there.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, they are truly great, and one of the coolest things about Inchu is like they will do custom stuff for you, right? Like they
Mhm.
will. Like I've had friends had their wedding rings designed by Astrid and her
Oh,
team.
cool.
It's just a really cool place. That's local and it's people. That's my big thing
Yeah.
about what we're doing here is everything is about people, and I find there's so much like negative talk about like human beings, and like
Mhm.
we're pretty great. It's just that
Yeah.
a lot of the folks who are in charge aren't. And I feel
Yeah.
like we can
Yeah.
just shift that a little bit and put some of us working class folks in charge of things. It'll get a little bit better. No more of this
Mhm.
like money above all stuff. All right, I do want to talk about Juraj Slavkovsky because I noticed a lot of frustration in this game, and
Mhm.
let's be real, he didn't have a great game. A lot of
No.
giveaways. And it's hard to parse out in a game like this where the worst person in terms of differentials on the team for like shot attempts was 53%, and that was Jake Evans.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's going to say Jake Evans struggled, like Slavkovsky was what, 57.5%. He was over 50% in expected goals, over
Mhm.
50% in shots, high danger chances, all that stuff. So it's good underlying numbers. But sorry, my wife is trying to pass me something. Bread and a
Mhm.
cookie. I like it.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, he was sloppy tonight, and I
Yeah.
know that there's some level of frustration with him in general, but it's kind of
Mhm.
the same thing as the team for me. I think folks need to see the forest for the trees. Remember what Slavkovsky was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Remember the
Yeah.
steps that he's taken, and then like try to fit the current thing into that, because I
Mhm.
think overall this year his performance is fine. Like it's not
Yeah.
blowing my socks off or anything, but I'm
Mhm.
not stressed about Slavkovsky, and I'm surprised that so many people are.
So to me, I think those are 2 factors, is I think that, first of all, um, Marty kinda gave up on the first line as it was a little too soon.
Yes.
Um, and I think that, like, the line that had worked near the end of the year, which is, Cole, Nick, and Slav, would have found it eventually together, which is I think they did, through this last little stretch, which is how you don't win games unless that line is like you don't consistently win games unless that top line is going, or all of a sudden Jake Evans wants to score like twice a game instead of just once a game now. Um, but I think first of all, it was that. I think he was on a line next to another guy who's really struggling in Dach. And I say was, let me be very clear, was struggling as the level he was. And I think that just 2 things just kind of piled on together. Um, honestly, Andrew, one thing that drives me insane about Slav. Oh my God, you're right. You have 2 hands, right? Like 1 and 2, right? You know what your hockey stick is, right? Like, you have that, you hold it, right? Have you tried putting both hands on it consistently and, like, not just falling into the one hand? Andrew, I this is the one thing that really pisses me off. I'm like, "Slav, I love you. Please, dear God, put hold on to your stick. Hold on to your stick. You have 2 hands. That is 2 hands on the stick. It's like the wheel, 2 hands on the wheel, 2 hands on your stick. Be in control. That's sorry, just needed to get that out.
I get
Whew.
it. I get it. I know this is something that I've seen like media folks complain about since day one with Slavkovsky.
Mhm.
Was the one hand
He's
on the
gotten a
stick.
lot better about it. He
He
used to do
has.
it so much more. He's gotten so much better about it, which is why it was so frustrating today because it was like, hello, my old friend. I don't want you back, please.
Yeah, and I think this is the kind of thing that makes people pay attention to Slavkovsky more in a negative way, in that when he's not on, it is the same mistakes over and over
Mhm.
again. It's
Mhm.
passing the puck to no one, just kind of throwing it into empty space without looking, not scanning. It's one hand on the stick and just being, I don't want to say soft, but it's like,
Lackadaisical.
yeah, it's a little bit too casual, right?
Casual, I think,
It's
yeah.
believing that he can kind of get away with it, and it seems like whenever he
Mhm.
thinks he can get away with it, that's when things start to go against him. And
Yeah.
because he's playing with Nick and Cole, there's a certain amount he can get away with and still be
Mhm.
productive. But I would like to see a little bit more consistency out of Slav. But again, I'm not worried. This is just, what I would like to see for the rest of the season. I'd like to see him get to that level that we saw the last 50 or so
Mhm.
games last year, which
Mhm.
we've seen it in different games this year, but it hasn't been consistent. I don't think he's been
Mhm.
a problem like Kirby
Mhm.
Dach has been a problem for a lot of the
Mhm.
season, but not recently. But
Yeah.
yeah, Trinka says disengaged.
Yeah.
It's tough, to be
I don't
engaged
even
82
know if I
times
would
a
call
year.
it disengage. I don't even know if I'd call it disengaged. I think somewhere between disengaged and engaged. I think we're like close to like because I don't want to say that because I feel like Slav does. I think that has this negative connotation in terms of like mentally.
Hmm.
And I don't think that's Slav's problem. I think that if there's one thing about Slav, it's he cares. He does care. And he puts that effort in. Like you said, it's hard to have the highest level of effort every single game. It's what, like 82 games? Like it's not you can't it's gonna be hard. But at the same time, I just don't ever want to like I don't think any of Slav's troubles have been a lack of work or a
Yes, I
lack of
agree.
wanting. I just think that, like, things just haven't worked, and I think there's been some bad luck along the way. Um, the whole shuffling of trying to understand Laine being out really affected him, Doc struggling really affected him, and so, like, we just I'm not worried, like you said, but I would like to see some improvements. Like, I don't think that, like, we're doomed in any sort of way. I don't think he's, like, this is just the player he is. I think he's a young player struggling with consistency on a team that is young and struggling with consistency.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly it, right? He's kind of, the symptom is the wrong word. The team and him are like reflections of each other,
yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I think people want to see the same level of taking a step from the team. They also want to see that with Slav, sorry, in lockstep. But it's
Mhm.
probably not going to be, right? It'll be like
Mhm.
the weird alternating
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And at a certain point with Slavkovsky, we all know, just like with the team, expectations are going to change. Where it's no
Mhm.
longer like, oh, he's a young kid. We're liking the improvement. Eventually, it's going to be he's a first overall pick. He's got to be a killer most
Mhm.
nights.
He's gotta
And
be a difference maker.
exactly. And I think like most nights he is a difference maker, but not as strongly as we can
Yeah.
all see that he can be. And
Yeah.
that leads to the frustration. But I do think some of the hyper focus on Slav is a little bit too much, and people can. It's the
It's
same as with Doc,
narratives.
right?
It's narratives, like, it's just like you said, people need stuff to talk about. Bernardo says that he's making 6 million per next year, and I think that's fair, that's a fair thing to point out, but I also do think that Kent Hughes didn't make this team or sorry, make that deal and that signing thinking that that's what Slav is gonna be worth in his first year.
Agreed.
I think that is a not like a bet he took that by the time that this like mid contract or whatever, that's when he'll be worth more than this. So I think it's just like a little bit of um I had this great conversation with Steven who is on with me with the Ducks game, the hockey boomer on on Blue Sky. And that was one thing he said. He said, I don't like it when young players get these sort of extensions, like these huge ones instead of the bridge ones, because it puts a lot of focus on them. And I
Yeah.
kinda disagreed a little bit with that. I thought that, like, sometimes it's a, risk worth taking. Like, I think
Yeah.
you're just being practical in some ways. But I understand that point of view. I also think no matter what Slav is making, this was going to be a conversation. Um, and I think right now the team can afford to overpay a little bit for what he's performing, as long as he lives up to it eventually, which I think is a fair assessment from yeah.
Yeah, and I think what Bernardo was trying to say. Don't let me put words in your mouth, Bernardo. But this is what I got from it was we were talking about like raising
Okay.
expectations. You think, well, the salary goes up next year, so the expectations will rise with it. And I think we saw the same thing with Suzuki's first year on his first contract, where
Mm.
he took a step, but it wasn't as crazy as last year's step. And Caulfield last year on the first year of his extension, there was some worrying about like whether that was going to be worth it. But you're right, Kay, that contract is for the entirety.
Mhm.
So the contract number will kick in and people will focus on that, but it is a long-term investment. And as for like putting pressure on young players, I can see that point. I think there's a different kind of pressure though when you're not extended long-term, right? When they only
Yes.
give you a year or 2 years and they're
Yeah.
kind of saying like, not sure we believe in you yet. Whereas when you've got the
Mhm.
long-term contract, I feel like that vote of confidence for a young person matters more
Mhm.
than like the pressure of
Mhm.
like the money. It may be
Mhm.
different if it's somebody getting like crazy amounts of money out of a first
Yeah.
contract, but most times I find when teams make those bets, usually they work out pretty well. It's
Mhm.
not often that they go against the team. Bernardo says I
Yeah.
got it. Perfect.
Bernardo's yeah. Yeah, Bernardo says for those, listening is he says, "No, I agree for now, it's fine, he's doing well and finding his game, but next year the standards need to go up." And
Yep.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair, and Ian Bover, our friend from Locked On Canadiens, also adds that, "I agree on that, it's not but that's not just for Slav, next year's the really big year for this team." And,
Agreed.
like, I think that's kinda what we're talking about is a team going in lockstep, Slav's like a microcosm of what we're seeing in the, larger team. I think it's easy to watch him. I think now that maybe Doc's kinda eased up, like, he's showing some improvements, now it's like, "Okay, well, n now let's see what else we can kind of not even pick on, because I think a lot of fans are being fair enough. There's a little bit of
Mhm.
harshness. I think it's the media who's being the media, but the
The
media
media.
is being yeah, I think it's like the media narrative is a little bit much. I think that, like, we could all take some deep breaths here,
A
myself
hundred
included.
percent. And I agree with you that like for the most part, Habs fans are pretty darn calm. I
Mhm.
think the way this season started, it could easily be completely off the rails and everybody losing their minds, right?
Yeah.
But this fan base is smart. Like there's a reason why people like coming to the Bell Center,
Mhm.
whether it's the players on the team, the people in the stands, or the players on the opposite team. They like it too. You
Mhm.
look at. Did you see the interview with Ilya
Yes.
Kovalchuk? That was so
No,
good.
no.
And I feel like we're
Yeah.
getting way off topic now, but I feel like there's something about Montreal that like maybe it's just they're embraced more here, but it seems like Russian players really appreciate the vibe here and that Montreal
Mhm.
accepts them really well. And watching that
Yeah.
interview with Kovalchuk, I just got like kind of nostalgic for that little bit of time that he was here and it was like everybody loved him so much even though
Mhm.
he was
Yeah.
just okay. They just wanted him to be there so much and the fact that he said yes was like, "Oh my god, this
Yeah.
guy."
Yeah.
And I look at Kovalev and
Mhm.
Markov. And I know there've been some Russians that haven't worked out, like Semin or Samsonov, but Ivan Demidov in this market, you see the goal that he
Oh,
scored?
he's gonna love it
It's
here.
gonna be beautiful, Kay. It's gonna be beautiful. I love it so much.
It's gonna be gorgeous.
It's gonna be amazing.
Oh,
So I'm really excited.
I
And
get really romantic about this, like, team
so
and
do
this,
I.
like, organization. I think, like, there's just something about it. And I not gonna say the word, but the three-letter word that we are all looking for at the end of the day out of our hockey teams I'm getting more and more paranoid about this, Andrew. You do not know where I'm at. Yeah, side note, but the other day I was eating like garlic sauce with my fingers when someone scored a goal, and I was like, I gotta keep doing this the entire period. So that's where we're at. But anyways, I just think about like that moment that we could possibly have at some point, and it makes me so happy. We saw the lining, like, lining was like, I've never heard a building that loud before, and, like, it's not, like it's just so sick to see, like, I think players just that's the thing, people Montreal gets a bad reputation, but I think there's some magic when you are giving the fans something to cheer for.
Yep.
They will be the loudest building. You just need to give them something to cheer for, you know?
Yeah, no one loves in hockey, no one loves like Montreal loves, right? Like
Mhm.
it's just it's all encompassing. It matters so much here in a way that it other fan bases are large and passionate, but it's just not quite the same as here. And I think it would be great if it was like that everywhere. But there's
Yeah.
something special. There's something in the water in Montreal, not just in the St. Lawrence, that's poop, but in the cleaned water, there's something special here. And I think
Air, I think
most
you could say
players,
air.
yeah, in the air, sure. But it's special here. It really is. All right, we're gonna have to this segment's gone long. So we'll switch to the
Yes.
third segment here. We'll talk Dach, Dobesh, and Montembeau just really quickly, and then we'll
Mhm.
get to the questions in our overtime period at the end here. I can't wait to chat with some of our folks in the chat here. I know Ian's here, Bernardo's here. I saw Claire was here. Outrage is here. Frederick is here. Trinka's here. Outrage, MFM, all of our friends. If I missed you, I apologize. We'll try to shut you out in the last segment there if you have any questions. So if you have questions off topic or whatever, save them. If you want to ask about the World Juniors or whatever, this isn't TSN. We're going to do a habs show first and foremost. We'll talk if you ask us
What do
about it,
you
we'll dig in.
mean?
But yeah, see,
And guys,
same thing as last year.
sorry, I'm sure you guys remember to like the stream, but in
Yes,
case you
please.
didn't, be sure to do that, please. We love you so much. We love you so, so much, and we'd really appreciate it. We are slaves to to the algorithm, all of us, but we'd be nothing without you guys. So, uh, just any amount of engagement, anything. Honestly, you guys even being in the chat, just participating, just really warms my heart. So I know it's a Saturday night, not the most exciting game. You could be doing better things. So thank
It's
you for joining
Friday.
us. I appreciate your time. Oh, it's a Friday night. My bad.
I only know because it says right here on my computer, because over the holidays I've had no idea what day it is, and I usually don't anyway, just trying to
Yeah.
manage things and not having like a regular work week. But yeah, it's all over the place. All right, let's talk quickly before we get into Kirby Doc about, hey, when Kay comes to visit Montreal, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna go to Le Saint
Yes.
Motel. Looking for a way to make awesome memories with your friends? Want to take some promotional pictures for your business? I know that we're going to be doing that. Check out Le Saint Motel in Montreal's Sud-Ouest. It is an amazing selfie studio located in Montreal's historic Chateau Saint-Ambroise, adjacent to Inchu Bijou, our other sponsor. And it boasts 12 plus unique decors that change all the time for you to enjoy and make memories. Hop into their iconic heart-shaped ball pit or transport yourself back in time to Expo 67. Le Saint Motel can also come to you if you need, with mobile decor setups available for rent for events or even outdoor events that they've done. They have a full-on collapsible like the ball pit, the heart ball pit that they can take and do outdoors. It just like fits
That's
together
sick.
and then they fill it up. It's so much fun. The kids also love jumping in the ball pit. Like they're great. They're super great.
Mhm.
Head to lesaintmotel.com for details or check out their amazing decors in person that are always being updated. I assume that the holiday one is probably going away soon because the holidays are over and they'll have a new one set up there. So always something new at
Which
Le
is
Saint
also very
Motel.
exciting.
It is, there's always something new. And I feel like people see like the idea of a selfie studio and they're like, but it's just, you go there and you have fun, you
It's
goof
fun.
around.
It's really fun.
It is, you have some fun you take some friends. I know that my
Not
wife has done like
yeah.
promotional pictures for her business there. And she's also gone there
Yeah.
just with friends and had a few drinks.
not to get like sappy, but recently I've been thinking of my father a lot. He passed away, 2018. And something I really regret is not taking more pictures with him. Um, and I really encourage everybody to like do that. I think in a situation like that, it's like Saint Motel is obviously great. Not to like sidetrack our sponsor, but I also just in general, guys, just like take those. Don't think you're too cool to take pictures.
Yeah,
Take pictures with the people you love. I know there's like a, "Oh, I'm too cool to be in a," like, it's fine. Just make memories. You won't regret it. And
yeah.
especially in Saint Motel, because you'll have some really cool, like, memories also to go with those, so, yeah.
Yeah, and memories that aren't just like, a picture in front of your wall, or something different that you
In a
can
poorly
have.
lit bar, like
Exactly. Yeah, the blurry bar pictures. Oh my god, that's giving me like flashbacks of 2007 Facebook, where like everyone was in the club with the
Oh my
mist
god.
in front of them and you couldn't see anything, and they upload 500 pictures from every night. Yeah, it's a different time now, but
Yeah.
probably better off without that. Anyway, Kirby Doc. Okay, I haven't gotten to see too much of the last stretch of games here, but clearly, based on tonight, he's playing much, much better. Obviously the goals help, but
Yes.
I'm seeing confidence from him when I haven't
Yes.
seen that all season long. And I
Mhm.
was watching the TSN feed and they're like, oh yeah, he's moving his feet now. And like, maybe he's skating harder, but I don't think it's about effort. I think it's he got something to go right for him and he's like, "Oh, I can still do this."
I
And
can do that.
I'm not going to have my knee explode every time I hit a guy. Like he laid the
I have a
body
good hot
tonight too.
oh my god. Yeah, Nick Suzuki, by the way. Oh, what a hit.
Just put that on
Sick hit.
replay for my whole life.
It's one of those moments too where you're like, "Oh, Nick Suzuki's small, he'll show you." It's the thickness. But with, Kirby specifically, I'm seeing him make a lot contact, like you said. He's not scared of that, and it's what makes him so effective. Like, when he uses that, big body, to use a hockey term, official hockey term, I guess, big body, um, that's, like that's what makes him at his strongest. I think that was, like, less of a physical thing to overcome and more mental,
Yeah.
like you said. I'm seems like whatever happened over the holidays, it was good for him, and I'm happy for him because it's been really good to see that kind of version of Kirby Dog back, not only on ice, but it seems like he's so much more relaxed off ice, and um, that's just I'm happy for him. Like in his like post and pre games, you see like a lot more like most hockey players don't like doing media, but you see him, unless your name is Slavkovsky, apparently, but you see him engaging more and kind of opening up, and that's just very important to see, and you love to see it. You love to see it.
Yeah, you really do. And I think, Kirby Doc is such an important player for just the future outlook of this team. And, if he doesn't make it to where the Canadians hope that he would, I don't think it's like the death knell of the rebuild or anything. But if he does, it
Yeah.
makes everything a lot easier. Sorry, a lot easier. So I really hope that we can see Kirby Doc continue to make this, you know, climb back to what he once was, because man, he was a great player to watch. He was really,
Yeah,
really fun. And I think
yeah.
that's more than just him being a good hockey player. Like I want to see him out there having fun on a consistent basis, because that's what drives this team, right? It's the power of friendship. That's
The
what
power
it's
of
been the whole
friendship.
time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, Kay. I did want to talk about Monty quickly, but I think you and I,
Yes,
we can just quickly say about Montembeau, he's much better than people want to admit
yes.
in
Yep.
general, and kind of the heartbeat of the team in a lot of ways. I don't
Mhm.
think that he was at fault for tonight. I think sometimes things just get in behind
Shit
you.
just happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
shit just happens. But let's talk about Jakub Dobeš, because that's a performance that
Yes.
I missed, and he's going to play against Colorado. He's going to start
Yes.
his career against the two most
I don't
recent Stanley
know if
Cup
he
champions.
will. Do you think I let's assume that he will. I'm not sure if there's been any confirmation on that,
Yeah, I
but
guess
that would be
assume.
really Marty's made stranger decisions before. But assuming it's like, "Oh, you enjoyed facing off against, like, Kachuk and Barkov and, Bennett? Okay, why don't you, like, stop McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar
Mhm.
now?" So they're really just testing him. And I think he's up for it. I don't know if his like body and like his play will be up for it, but he's mentally up for it. And I think that's the big thing. He doesn't seem like he's scared or shying from the opportunity. And I think that's half the battle for a goalie, especially young goalie.
100%. So what it comes down to now is the team has to support him, right? And clearly
Yes.
they were pretty good against Florida to manufacture a shutout, because that just doesn't happen in isolation. You need to
Mhm.
have, unless a goalie's going like full on Halak in the 2010 playoffs, a shutout's not going to happen without some level of team effort on defense. Just
Mhm.
most players aren't capable of shutting out a whole team. It's very, very difficult. It needs to be a team effort. But
Mhm.
I guess the question is, how afraid is Colorado of Jakub Dobeš and his 100% career save percentage?
Terrified.
They should be.
That's gonna be a really hard one for me, Andrew. I don't know how
I
that one's
know.
gonna go.
I know. And
Uh
you're hosting it, right?
Yes. So essentially, the look behind the scenes, there was one or two people that I was hoping to get on from the because I know a lot of people on the app side, of course, and unfortunately, the nobody could make it. So I was like, okay. So I was hoping somebody would balance me out, but now it's just me, myself, and I, and it's all good, guys. You got me. Um, no, I think it's just I'm so happy for Dobesh. Um, track back just really quickly. By the way, I love that the Habs today were like, "We are not gonna let you have a hat trick, old man." At Foligno, they were like, "We are gonna fight that hat trick. We are not letting you have it," and I appreciate that. And I think it was the kind of the same with the shutout. They fought so hard for that at the end of the game. Um, I think I think if they're able to repeat that performance in terms of how they were playing, um, there's a good chance against this team. They are on a back-to-back. There is travel. Altitude is always a thing,
Yep.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a loss tomorrow. I also wouldn't be shocked if we saw a win tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think tomorrow's game is definitely more important for this club, in terms of like they want to show that they're not going to lay down against a good
Mhm,
team. And Colorado's won 6 straight.
mhm,
Nate McKinnon is a machine, and also you got Arturi Lehkonen, who we all know is going to score because
mhm.
it's
Yeah,
former team, and we love
yeah,
Arturi, and we'll spot him one, but that's the only one
yeah.
getting by Dobesh.
That one game, that first game where he scored against the Habs and they lost, like, when he came back and they lost miserably, and, I think I was in the building for that one, and everybody's chanting his name like he was a Habs player, and Andrew, I'm not kidding you, I got teary-eyed because it was so loud. Everybody was cheering for him so hard, and that's kinda what it comes down to in terms of how much we love our players.
Yep.
And Bernardo Sesdrin, who, by the way, scored with, like, 10 seconds left, in their last game to even it up versus Buffalo. So he's on a heater. I'm gonna try to have a good time, but I'm gonna probably end up just being sad because everybody's gonna be mean about everybody, and I'm just gonna be sad about how mean everybody is.
Well, hey, Jonathan Drouin, over a point per game this year.
Yeah, he's been hurt, but the Halifax magic still stands. The Mooseheads magic still stands. I don't think that's gone away.
Yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for the Colorado Avalanche, because when I was a kid and Patrick Waugh was traded, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna continue just liking Patrick Waugh, and I went over to the
Yeah.
Avalanche for a little bit and watched them win 2 Stanley Cups, and then Waugh retired, and at the same time was like Koivu coming back from cancer, and I was like, I'm back. I'm back to the
You got
Habs.
me back.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking I'm back. The old John Wick thing, but yeah, that kind of pulled me back in. But I will always have a soft spot for them, and I find whenever if a player that I like for the Montreal Canadiens can't find the success or the long term stability with the Montreal Canadiens, if they find it with the Colorado Avalanche, I'm happy.
Me
So
too.
watching Lehkonen
Me
go
too.
there and find himself in a really great situation and then immediately win a cup, just like Lars Eller did with
Yeah,
Washington. Less fun because who cares about Washington? No offense.
exactly.
But yeah, I enjoy that. And I like that Drouin has also, injuries have always been a problem, but he's found himself in a lot of ways in Colorado as well. So that makes me happy. All right. Denny says I went through that almost identically. Well, Denny, we also kind of like have the same aesthetic in a lot of ways too. So I guess we have a very similar childhood. I feel like you're also a bearded dude, probably taller than me because everybody is, but yes. Anyway, let's cut to the sorry, the what do we call it again?
Overtime.
Overtime. Sorry, it's been a while
Yeah.
since I've done this. Don't know if you all can tell. I'm a little bit out of my element, but yeah, let's get some questions in from the chat. I'm gonna ask the first question, and we'll just see how people get. All right.
Mhm.
How many World Juniors games did you watch this year, Kay?
Half
Half?
half a one.
I mean, admittedly, this was a very busy holiday for me because I was like on mission trying to move some family
Mhm.
members away from voting for Polyev. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of intense conversations, but I
We had an
watched,
agenda going.
right? So I watched one World Juniors game this year, and it was when I was meeting up with the Game Over Edmonton folks, and I
Yeah.
was cheering for Latvia.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll admit, I've been kind of struggling with how I feel about Canadian hockey in general because of the Hockey Canada stuff. And as
Mhm.
long as they're in charge, I feel like there's a little, it's like a bit of grit in your food. You know, I want to cheer for our kids. I want to cheer for our women. I want to cheer for our men. But
Mhm.
I'm not so nationalistic that I can ignore the
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah.
And then you add in that they rarely take the best team, that they're leaving skill
Mhm.
players on the side, that they always, always in this tournament bring some player that's unhinged and does idiotic stuff. And they're like, oh, I can't believe the unhinged player did idiotic stuff. And it goes back forever. Like Steve Downey
Yeah.
was there. I forget the name of the kid
Insane.
who unfortunately I think retired. He was like a Columbus Blue Jackets pick, and he was there twice, and both times like got suspended for stupid hits. And it's like, oh, why do the
PLD?
refs hate us?
No, sorry.
No, it wasn't PLD. It was further back than that.
Yeah.
Less impactful
Victor.
player. But somebody will know in the chat, I'm sure. It was I don't think he ever played in the NHL. He retired before that. But just every
Unfortunately,
time we do this stupid trying to play
it's
like super
so
rough thing, and they're like, "Oh, why do the refs hate us?" Because we act like idiots.
yeah. Unfortunately, I am not immune to pa pa patriot pa unfortunately, I am not immune to I'm not
Patriotism.
immune to patriotism. I'm not immune, essentially. I end up kind of falling into it, despite my better, like, knowledge and my, like, emotional whatever it is or, like, in whatever. Um, and I think that kind of love for the game, because I do genuinely think that Hockey Canada, if it made the right decisions, could would still win. Like,
Yes.
I think that we just the pure talent is enough, the raw talent, the numbers are enough that it would be a win. Like USA Hockey is doing great stuff. I think the numbers aren't there. Um, but this year sucks, or like this time of year always sucks because for what 3 years in a row now, I've had to watch a team that could be so much better if they just made a few, like, easy decisions, simple decisions. It sucks the politics of the NCAA that, like, ends up coming into it. It sucks that, like, they have their guys that they're not willing to part with. And it sucks, like, it feels like they're doing wrong by the kids, you know? Like, they're really, like these guys just this experience that's supposed to be amazing for them and that's supposed to, like, give them a like, fighting chance. It doesn't feel like they've done fair by them. And does that mean that if they did fair by them, some of those kids wouldn't be there? Yeah. But that doesn't mean that the other ones don't deserve, like, a better a better roster to work with. And then, oh my god, Andrew, them not practicing at all? What was that? And then their, like, press conference that they did, it just reeks of, like, feeling like they're untouchable, which is kind of true. I just want, like, for me personally, I just want Canadian fans to like make noise. I don't think things are going to change until we are very vocal about it because these guys are very comfortable where they are. They're not scared despite all evidence that they should be. Um, and I think they should know that like Canadian fans expect better. Um, we like this is embarrassing. This is humiliating. I hate this. I hate this. I can't even like pretend. Like with the Latvia game, of course I was happy for them like in theory, but I can't help it. I was like also a little bit like, no, I'm not. I'm mad. Like more than anything, I'm sad. So like again, logically it's good and I'm proud of Latvia and it's great and I'm happy for them. But like why can't we just make the simple decisions that would make it so much better?
Yeah, I feel like Canada's like they're kind of stuck, or we are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because if you take the best team every time, the expectation is always going to be win, right? And I feel like in hockey, when Canada wins gold, there's like that rush of joy, of course, like if any other team would win, and then it's like, thank goodness we didn't lose.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's like this relief more than celebration. And that's why when Latvia won and I watched how much it meant to those kids,
Mhm.
especially that goalie, and he just did this like, oh, and I was like,
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
they throw you the biggest party when you get home.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy this thing that like, yeah, you'll have Canadians be like, oh, hang a banner because that's what we do to people who
It's
haven't
how we have
experienced.
to cope. It's
It's
how we
right.
have to cope.
That is
It's
our copium.
it's full cope.
But like that win or nothing pressure is also felt by those kids, or like every Hockey Canada team or every Canadian hockey team.
Mhm.
It's so intense. And I think when you're in that situation and the people who are in charge of things above you are the same folks who have limitless job security that make mistake after mistake, and this is just hockey culture in general.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why does Peter
The
Chiarelli
NHL
still have a job?
coaches. Yeah.
Right? Like, why is Dave Cameron coaching again at the World Juniors? Like, dude's done this so many times.
Bernardo
And
says he's aggressively unlikable, which is exactly it. He is so unlikable.
like, why are you doing this? Like, why for the Four Nations face-off, which I do not care about. And I'll cover
It's
it.
hard to care about that one, yeah.
Maybe it'll be great. But in terms of like, does Canada need to win this? No, I don't care. Why didn't we take
Yeah.
Noah Dobson? Like, why do we need to
I would
have
be.
Alex Pietrangelo just because he's been there before? Like, he's not the player that he was 10 years ago, which is the
Mhm.
last time there was a real best on best tournament. You know, why the loyalty thing over doing the right thing? And it's hockey.
Yeah.
It's more strong, I find, in Canada because Canadian hockey culture is hockey culture, right? Like, there's other countries that have their own, of course, but like the dominant form of what is hockey culture is Canadian. That's why everybody is out there being like,
It's
fuck
all
yeah, bud.
it's like literally also you'll like see like American players who are like and you'll see like Europeans like kind of all just it's all like really weird. Linguistics are fun. You have these like it's just we just really it sucks. It just sucks. Like that's it. It just sucks because it just feels like this means so much to these guys who put on that uniform, that put on that jersey and like play. And I just don't know if the guys in charge are taking it as seriously as they do. Um,
Yeah, I think they
and
take
it's
it seriously
fair.
within their own worldview, right? But their
Yeah.
worldview is very limited, and they cannot imagine somebody outside of the the 200 hockey men having an
Mm.
opinion that matters, even though like a bunch of nerds on the internet are responsible for why scoring's up right now. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I can go through it for everybody eventually and like give you the timeline of what happened in hockey to drive the current scoring surge. But as much as people are like, oh, kids are like more talented now. Yeah, but that's like in puck skills, yeah, but they're not that much more talented. And like as talent increases, like so does defensive talent, right? And goalie
Yeah.
talent is better than it's ever been as well, even though it's like a
Unless you're
little
in
bit
Canada. Yeah.
less like concentrated at the top. It's kind of
Yeah.
everywhere, aside from Connor Hellebuck, who is hockey Jesus apparently.
A freak. Yeah.
Bernardo Saunier says, did you guys see Wedgwood in incredible pain and the ref just watching him calling a goal while he was writhing
Did
on
I
the ice?
ever?
Holy man. What was that?
It was insane. It was insane. Also, Zach, right? It is Zach. Zach
Yes.
Benson, I am in your walls. I don't think he, like I think it was, like, a weird, like, physics situation where, like, a smaller player and a big player come together and what's gonna happen? A fall is gonna happen. I don't think he did that on purpose, just the celebration after the goal, "Oh, I am in your fucking walls." No, to go back to what matters, which is Scott Wedgwood's health, it is so I was listening to a podcast, today, and uh, Megan Angley, I'm sure you guys don't know her, but Megan Angley from Gorilla Sports podcast was kind of pointing out how, like, there's two things that they're butting up against here, which is one, either the goalie is faking it and they don't want to call it, or B, this guy is hurt. And it's like, which are you valuing more? If a goalie is faking it, there's other things you can do. But this is a guy's health, right? Like, this league pretends so much to care about player safety. Um, and it's just it's awful. Something similar happened to Matt Calvert, a few years ago, I wanna say 5 years ago, where he got, like, hit in the head, bleeding out of his ear, and he's lying there. And, like, they changed something about how they enforced that rule after that. Like, rare NHL actually admitting that they should change something, but good for them. But then you see, like, they haven't like, the lesson hasn't been learned.
Yep.
It's just I don't understand why. It's just caring. It's truly about player safety.
Yep.
What happens if someone takes a slap shot and he's down there? He's writhing in pain. I was really upset about that, Andrew. Like, I'm sorry to go off about that, but, like, it was so upsetting for me. Um, Especially because, like, he's been really important to the team, but even if he wasn't, he just seems like a really nice guy, and it sucks to, like, literally, like, you could see him screaming in pain,
Yep.
and it's like, they're gonna fake it? Like, you think a goalie's really faking it that bad?
Yeah, in play, a goalie.
And not Binnington? Like, come on. Especially because,
Not
like, it's not
Binnington.
especially because, like, the puck wasn't, like, in such an imminent danger position that, like, he would absolutely like, that's the only way he can get out of it. The puck was behind him at that
Yeah.
point. Um, so, like, even just beyond all those technical reasons, at the end of the day, what it is to me is player safety. Like,
Yeah.
that's the big factor there. I just don't know if this league gives a fuck about their players.
I mean, it's clear that they don't, just based on their stance on concussions, right? They care about
Yeah.
liability more than anything.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's how all big corporations are, no matter what they say about caring about their employees. Like,
Yes.
HR exists not for you. That's for
No.
stopping lawsuits. They're not there to help you.
Yes.
They're not there to solve workplace issues. They're there to make sure the company doesn't get sued. And
Join a
that's
union, folks.
seriously, unionize and stick strong with that. Love your fellow workers. Every person who works for a living should be allied with each other. It's the people who don't that consistently take advantage. I actually thought at first that it was Blackwood, like right after
Mm.
he got extended, and I was like, oh
Which
my
would've
god.
mm,
Yeah,
that's
but
rough.
it's bad. And I think the NHL could solve their own indecisiveness with this kind of stuff if they just created rules that were very easily interpreted, not this vague crap that allows you to make whatever decision that you want in the moment when you get a review.
Mhm.
Like, if somebody fakes an injury, if they like full on fake, you can see it. They're down on the ice, writhing in pain, and they don't miss a shift. 20-game suspension.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
20-game suspension. Deal with the consequences of your actions. People aren't going to fake
Mm.
anymore. And then when
Yeah.
people are actually hurt, call the damn play. Like, if
Yeah.
somebody gets head picked or whatever, don't call the retaliation. Call the play.
No.
If you
Yeah.
need off ice officials to be able to talk to on ice officials to get them communicating and seeing what might have been missed, do it. But do what's necessary to make the product better. Stop doing what's
Yeah.
necessary to make yourselves feel good with like this offside challenge and crap. Like, all their
Yeah.
focus is always on the wrong stuff.
Yeah, like, after the game, Jared Bednar said that, like, the explanation he got was, "Oh, your guy shoved him into the goalie." And he's like, "I wasn't challenge," like, he did eventually end up challenging for goalie interference, and I think that was more of a "fuck you" call. Like, I think it was
Mhm.
genuinely just, "You stand there, look at yourself, think about what you did." Um, but I think it was like, he's literally like, "It wasn't goalie interference. I was concerned about the health." Like, that was never my problem. He's like, "If it was a goal that had went in, I wouldn't have argued it." Like, it's just, and earlier that it's the inconsistency too, because you see earlier that game, Darlene went down, and they called it, as they should have. Like, it doesn't matter that the Avs had the puck. They should have called it, and they did. And it's it just feels like, why not err on the side of caution more than often, more than not. Yes.
Bernardo, this will be the last question. It says Bernardo says,
Yes.
"What's Game Over's stance on concussions?" Should we get
Winky
real
face.
controversial? No. I think that they should be taken seriously. And one thing that I really don't like hearing is mild concussion. It's like a pet peeve of mine. I
Yeah.
feel like people don't realize how dangerous like a so-called minor concussion can be if you play through it. If you get
Mhm.
another concussion when you already are concussed, even like at the tail end of minor symptoms, it messes you up for a very long time. And it's the
Mhm.
double hits that end up either ending careers or causing players to miss like years.
Mhm.
I just think we need to take athletes' health a little bit more seriously. And I know people don't want like load management, because if you're paying $300 to go see a game, you're going to
Yeah.
want to see Lane Hudson out there or Sidney
Yeah.
Crosby out there. You don't want them load managed, but I think the time has come to reduce the schedule a little bit
Yes.
and start
Yes.
adding in different mid-season tournaments like
Mhm.
EPL. I feel like people might be resistant to it at first, but if say after the World Juniors every year there was a Canada Cup between the Canadian teams and like the 6 top teams played like in a one-off tournament, and there's a little bit of a
Mhm.
break from the NHL, people would get into it really, really fast. You
Yeah.
know, even if you're a team like Montreal where you might not even make the playoffs, but in a Canada Cup tournament, you could get hot and win.
Anything could happen. Anything could
Anything could
happen, which is the
happen,
fun thing about tournaments.
right? So
Yeah.
you have those
Yeah.
kinds of things to not only keep people engaged, because right now, specifically until the trade deadline, is the least engaged time for fans. There's like
Yeah.
October, beginning of November, where people are excited, and then they realize that their team is either mid or crap or really good, and casual fans disengage. You know, like I've
Yeah.
been in this job enough time that I know when
Mhm.
numbers are high and when they're low. And I do think the NHL has a problem with their schedule, that it's too long and too monotonous for anyone
Mhm.
outside of hardcore fans to pay attention all year.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot they could do. Also, just to go back to your point about, like, language really matters. And I think when you say things like minor concussion or mild concussion, that really does not, like, uh, underscore the safety or, like, the seriousness of it. I've known some people who've unfortunately, dealt with, head trauma, and it really fucks people up, like, in terms of just their quality of life. It can really, really ruin someone, you know? And you don't ever want, like, I just wish that, like, this league would take that seriously, that had, concussions and stuff, but, um, I know people get really frustrated with the IHF
Yes.
IHHF?
IIHF.
Yes. IIHF, they get really frustrated with that, like, the strict kind of, enforcement of head, but I think, like, that's the way you go about it, and guys adjust. If they can't adjust, they can't stick it in the league. Like, it's
Yep.
you either adjust or you don't, like, there's not a
I
choice.
I also like the IIHF rule where like if you step in the crease, they blow the whistle. And
Yeah.
I get it that it's super frustrating sometimes and you can get pushed in or whatever, but if you want to cut down on goalie interference, just make it super black and white. You don't get to go
Mhm,
in there. That's the
mhm,
goalie's space. You can make
mhm.
ruckus
Stay out.
everywhere outside there, but inside that blue paint, get the heck
What
out,
would
or we're
Brendan
gonna blow the
Gallagher
whistle.
do, Andrew?
Oh,
Why would
he'd
you
be
do
in
that to Brendan
shambles.
Gallagher?
Brendan Gallagher would be like, you can make that rule, but like, give me a few more years. Just let me get out of the NHL first. All right, folks. I think that's it for us on Game Over Montreal tonight. We went pretty long, but it was really nice to see you all again and to see Kay and hear Kay's laugh and see all the comments and everything. It's really nice. It's really, really nice. I can't wait to be back here. Yeah, I've missed it too. You know, it's nice to do this stuff. It's just fun. I think that's the big thing about
isn't it?
Game Over. It's just fun.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you again, or Kay will see you for sure tomorrow as the Canadiens take on the Colorado Avalanche, and hopefully another Jakub Dobish shutout, and we can start talking about him as the next one.
The next one.
All right. We'll see you later.
Hi.